You're listening to Pole Parlour, a fun, inspiring podcast for all those bewitched by pole dance. Each week, your Madam Crimson Minxxx has candid conversation with unique, engaging individuals from within and around the pole dance community. Pole Parlour is passionate about preaching creativity, soulful sensuality, and empowerment through pole dance.
You know how we do.
Welcome everyone to Pole Parlour. This is episode 19, Amy Guion. I'm your host, Crimson Minxxx. On this episode, we have Amy Guion. Amy is a full-time pole professional as boss babe at Pole Sport Organization and also teaching her Bendability Fitness program. On this episode, we talk about her history as a pole teacher, studio manager, competitor, and world traveler, what inspired her to start one of the world's largest pole competition organizations, the challenges and evolution of Pole Sport Organization, as well as the positive response to her recent announcement of the addition of an exotic dance category. And don't forget to head over to the blog at poleparlour.com to check out Amy's post-podcast interview. And while you're there, check out the new merch up on the Pole Parlour shop. So now, let's bring on Amy. Welcome, Amy Guion, to the Pole Parlour podcast. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Great, so we can jump right on in.
Okay.
For how long have you been poling, and how did you first discover pole dance?
Well, I've been polling. I just had my 9-year anniversary in April, so I'm old in pole age, as I like to say. So I first discovered pole by taking a class for my birthday, and it was just kind of like I Googled, pole dance class in Hollywood, because I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I thought that Hollywood sounded very fabulous and a good place to have a birthday party. So I took my first class at Be Spun with Leanne Riley, and she never got rid of me. So I've been at her studio ever since, and just keep falling more and more in love with it.
That's cool. And so do you have a history as a dancer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I grew up doing ballet. I'm originally from Seattle, so my parents put me in one of the big ballet schools in Seattle when I was growing up, and then I was super passionate about it. I really loved it. And then when I got to my senior year of high school, I was applying to fine arts programs and different things. And then I ended up hurting my back, which was kind of a bummer. But that's how I ended up in LA, because I actually went to school for physical therapy instead of doing a dance career. So I quit dance, went to university, and then midway through my university, I was like, oh, I really want to try some stuff again. And so I went back to a little bit of ballet, but then mostly found pole and also started doing a little bit of circus at the time. So I guess that's my story.
Oh, wow. So you discovered pole dance, but you were still in college.
Yeah, I did. I was a sophomore in college. We even had a pole in my dorm room.
No way.
Yeah, I had a 50 millimeter chrome X pole, because we used to dance on 50s, in my dorm room right next to our dining room table. And so I'd move the table so that I could use the pole. And we definitely got a lot of weird looks from our TAs and other people who lived in the building, but it was worth it.
Yeah, I feel like you were probably popular amongst maybe the dudes on campus.
That's a new trick.
Yeah, there are those girls with the pole in their room. What's happening in there?
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool. So then when you finished up college, did you actually work in your field, or did you split time doing pole? Did you see pole being more of a career option at the time, or did you really just love doing it?
Well, okay, so two things. Number one, I think was actually the biggest thing, is that I graduated in 2009. So that's basically worst economy ever, right? The crash was in '08, and then '09, none of my friends could get jobs. Everybody was kind of panicking. And I'd already been, kind of helping out at Be Spun, in trade for classes. And so Leanne and her husband were, like looking for a studio manager. And so they were like, look, we can pay you like, a decent salary. And then like you can make up for what we can't pay you in the salary with classes. So I was like, oh, well, that sounds like a great deal to me. I get to be still, in fitness and surrounded by people that I already know, that I already enjoy working with. And I can get paid to do that. Like that sounds pretty amazing. And so for physical therapy too, you also have to go to more schooling. So once you leave your university with your bachelor's, then you'd have to go get your doctorate of physical therapy. And I wasn't really that keen on like heading right back to school. So I was like, look, I'll try this job. Sounds like a good deal to me. And then just kept going with it.
And that's perfect because when you graduate college, it's not like you exactly have a high standard of living. So
No,
it's
not at all.
oh, now I'm taking this job that's like half paying me in classes and like I have to get rid of the boat, So it's like
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. Like and it was like also having a group of people that I was already working with, at the studio. It was such like a great built-in like social network. Mm-hmm. So I know that's another thing that a lot of my university friends felt is when they left university and moved back to where they were from, or even, moved out into the larger LA community, they were like, well, we don't really know anyone here. And so for me, it was like, it was so natural. It was like, oh no, like I have all these friends already who do pole and who are amazing. And so like, I'm going to move up to, the Hollywood area and hang out with them. So it was really, really an amazing experience.
Yeah, and pole is such a community. It really is like a tribe, a community. So to fall into that, I feel like so many people, that's what keeps people poling is just the fact that they make so many friends and feel part of something. So
yeah, absolutely.
I never thought about that from a job perspective though. So that's pretty cool to think about.
Thanks. Yeah.
And so what was the evolution next? So did you start teaching, competing, performing? What were like your entry points?
The next steps.
Yeah.
So let's see. So I was a student first, which you should always be a student. And then I was a teacher.
We had Brian Wolf on actually a few podcasts ago, and he admitted that he actually did his classes around his pole. So I'm glad we have you on as another voice of.
I got credit for my university classes actually, so I'm gonna take that step further. And so like we had to do like internships like at a fitness facility or a physical therapy facility, and I was like, well, I'm already working at this pole dancing place, like can't that count? And they were like, yeah, sure, it can count. So like Leanne's like signed my papers like, oh yeah, you get college credit for this.
Oh, see, you integrated it. That's perfect.
I did. We did. Okay, cool. So so I was a student and then a teacher. Then I became the studio manager. And then at that point, I started competing, or that's when sort of the first competitions popped up. And I remember like the first competition, not the one I did, but the one that Alethea Austin did in 2009. She did the first USPDF. And she was like, I'm going to New York for a competition. And we were all like, why would you do that? Like, obviously like being like, oh, okay, that sounds really cool. And like, we want to support you, but like competition? Like, what? Like, that's different, or that's not something that we do. And, as the competitions kind of got bigger and bigger, like I also started getting into them. And, B-Spun was very supportive of me using their space and training, and like all the teachers would always, come by to rehearsals, or Leanne would help us out, with training or with combos and stuff. And then from there, I did pretty well. I competed for about 4 years. And so I ended up going like on tour after that. So I did a little bit in the US, like just teaching like workshops and stuff. And then I started going international and did that for about 2 years. And then from there, I started Pole Sport Organization with a partner. And then now I've just been doing PSO, I guess, for the last 5 years.
Wow. Thank you for laying that timeline out for us. That's crazy. So
yeah,
you really...
everything.
Yeah, you've like touched everything. So yeah, those who don't know, Alethea Austin also went to B-Spun, and that's where Amy was talking about that when Alethea first started competing. And so you're saying like back in 2009, I guess you were giving that timeline. There weren't really competitions around.
No, I mean, that was the first one, the U.S. Pole Dance Federation. So, they started something, and, they were that dominant competition series for a while.
Wow. Wow. To like see that. And so what was your thought? You were thinking like you must have seen a lot of potential with this because Amy started Pole Sport Organization, which is grown to be such a huge organization and has competitions all around, is it the country?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all around the United States. So let's backtrack to that. So it sounds like you covered the teaching, the studio managing, the traveling, and where you just felt like you saw a hole in pole that could be filled with more competitions, people wanting to.
Yeah, well, I think that like it came from two things. I think number one, it came from the fact that I was doing competitions and I didn't really feel like the organization was really catering to the competitors.
Okay.
So like the organizations, and not all of them. So I'm not trying to say that they were all bad. But you know, some of them just didn't communicate well. So you'd like send emails and be like, hey, I have a question about rules or about the setup or something. And no one would ever get back to you. Or, you know, you'd show up and the setup would be, you know, 100% different than what they said it was going to be. So like maybe your spin pole and your static pole were like reversed. And so then you were like, I just spent like all this time and energy and really like your emotion, right? And training for these competitions, like it's a lot of work. And so when you show up and you don't feel like the organizers have really respected the work that you've put in, I think that that was a point that I was like, wow, you know, maybe we could do an organization that would cater sort of to the competitor. So like be more communicative, be available, lay everything out, you know, tell people what to expect and actually follow through with it. And then, yeah, the second part was, so when I was competing, it was all submission-based video. So you'd have to like send in a video and then the organizers would say like, okay, so these, you know, 14 girls get to compete. And so I was very, you know, fortunate to be chosen, you know, for most of these events. And so I could do, you know, 4, 5, 6 events a year if I wanted to. But for, you know, a lot of my other friends, like I even had friends that I thought were better than I was, and they would submit videos and they would never get in. Yeah. And so that was to me really sad. Like, well, why don't they get the chance, you know, to also perform? And so I think that from like sort of the merging of those two issues that we saw, that's kind of how we came up with the idea for PSO.
Cool. So for those who don't know, can you just give us an overview of PSO? So like, what is it? How many competitions? What do you need to qualify to be in it? So
yeah, definitely. Okay, so we are probably at this point the world's largest professional and amateur competition. So we put about 2,000 competitors through our system every year, which is pretty awesome. So I watch a lot of pole dancing.
Yeah.
I have a lot of information. And so we've got about 10 shows. They're all over the country. We also have one in Switzerland, which is brand new. So we went over there to Zurich with the crew in May. We're going to do that again, so that's been really fun. We have 5 levels of skill. So you can be like a non-inverter. So our level 1 is like you can't go upside down, all the way up to the professional level, which is like a qualifier for our national competition. So anywhere in between, you know, you can do levels 2, 3, 4. We do have some, you know, move restrictions to help like separate the levels a little bit. Like for example, like level 2, like you can only do inverts like off the ground. So it's like more of like a beginner inverting level. We also divide by category. So if you're interested in performing like a more dramatic piece or like an emotional piece, we have a category for that. We also have a category for championship. So that's a little bit more like technique based, you know, how hard are your tricks, those kinds of things. I know that you were interested in the exotic category.
I know a lot of people were.
Yeah, well, okay, so then we have the exotic category. So that's supposed to be the place like for like more sensual movement, like the sexy dancing, like all that flow and body. I'm all like wiggling already, like body rolls and the waves. Yeah. And so yeah, so hopefully what we've tried to do, you know, is give each, you know, part of the community its own little spot in what we're doing, so that no matter like what style you are or how old you are or what level you are, you can still put on a performance, you know, get feedback from judges, be on a professional stage, you know, and feel like, you know, we're there to like help you and take care of you and that we want you to do well. Like as an organizer, I want you to be successful.
And there's no submissions.
And there's no submissions. Yeah. So you just sign up and that's it. So you go, you know, pick a city, pick a date, and there you go. You're ready to go.
That's amazing because I know so many people want the opportunity to perform, and a lot of studios, they have showcases or things like that, but not all of them. And so it's so great. I think that was really important to the community, the pole community, that you created this organization, just because you've given so many people the opportunity to step on stage and to invite friends and family to see them and to perform for other polers. And so
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah, of course. So we'll go. I want to touch on the exotic thing
Yeah,
in
definitely.
a bit, but first, can you just talk about like what are the challenges? How many years have you been doing this now?
Let's see. I think we're in our 5th year right now.
Okay, and so what are the challenges? Like, you don't have an event background, right? So
No, I don't. I've always been very organized. And also I think my time at B Spun was really helpful because we used to plan out like the first iterations of the Pole Show LA event. So I helped with those like kind of in the beginning. So that gave me like a good sense of like, how to work. But I think that it's really about, being organized and time management and like all that stuff that's not sexy and doesn't sound cool and doesn't sound fun. But is really important like when you're putting together a show. So it's not all the glitter and the glam and the designing costumes and the that fancy stuff. It's more like, okay, did you call to follow up with the shipping company to make sure that your books got there on time? Like, and that's the kind of work that I do. So it's not difficult, but I think when you put it together all at once, if you don't have a good timeline, then it becomes really overwhelming. So a lot of what I do when I plan shows is like, I've got my calendar and I've got my list of tasks. And, I have to plan out, from 6 months, to the day of, and each day has its little checklist, and that's kind of how I do it.
and so it's happening. There's always a competition pretty much year round, right?
Well, we take a break from like November, like mid-November till like mid-February. And that's for 2 reasons. Number one, I think holidays, everybody's like, nobody's training. Like we're all, wanting to just like be with family and travel and take time off work and that kind of stuff. And then, when January 1st hits, then you need like a good like 6 weeks or like 2 months to kind of like get back in the rhythm of your stuff. So I think it's actually good for pole to have, or competition at least, to have a little bit of a season so that, your body also gets a break. Because competing is really, it's difficult both physically, and your brain needs a break too. It's mentally hard too.
Yeah. And so how do you pull these off? Do you have a lot of volunteers? Like how do you pick judges?
Sure. Well, so yeah, we definitely rely on a lot of volunteers. We also have like a core group of staff that like travels with us like to each show. So we've got the core group that does like the setup and the teardown. And then, yeah, volunteers, you could be a pole cleaner, announcer, stage monitor. You can help out at registration. So there's lots of like ways to get involved if like, say, you're thinking about competing, but you're like maybe a little bit nervous. Yeah. I always tell people just be a pole cleaner because then you'll get on stage, you'll climb the poles, and you'll be like, okay, nobody died, safe, like it's okay, like I'm in front of a lot of people. And so it's like baby steps like to get you to the performance level. Yeah, and then for judges, we have judges from the community, so they also submit like an application, and we go through and we pick, depending on their experience, maybe how long they've trained or how many years they've been doing pole, or if they have like other skills like a gymnastics background or a dance background. And we actually have a lot of judges who keep coming back each year, which I think is awesome. They must like what we do in our system, and so having those returning judges is always great because then they just know what they're doing and it's very quick, and I enjoy working with them.
Yeah, you're like so cool and blasé about it, and I'm like stressing out just thinking about all of the coordination and everything needed to pull these off. And you're just like, girl, get a calendar, organize yourself. It's fine. Wow.
Well, I mean, it wasn't like if you were going to throw me from having done no shows into doing 10 shows right now, it would be completely overwhelming. Okay. But like, each show, like we tweak it a little bit and we say like, okay, so what didn't go right? What can we do to make that better for next time? And you'll notice that from show to show, although our venues change and our cities change and the competitors change, the format is kind of always the same, right? So it's not like I'm doing a Disney themed show the first time, and then like everything has to change to like a Lord of the Rings themed show for like the next one. So
Yeah.
it does stay, somewhat standardized, and that's something that we actually try to do, so that it's consistent.
Smart. Yeah, because even I noticed, like, I know if it's a PSO show for this year because you have the same backdrop, which is black with the white lights.
Yeah,
I
the
don't know
star
how to
drops.
describe.
Yeah, they're star drops or star drapes.
Yes, star drapes. The white light dots was not the correct way to describe that. But yeah, so when you see people reposting videos on YouTube or on social media, you can instantly recognize, oh, that's a pole sports organization competition because it has a consistent backdrop, and that's probably saving you a lot of time of having to redesign a stage every
Yeah. Well, cool. I'm really glad that that's working, because that's the goal. So if that's what you're reading out of it, that means I'm doing my job right.
Yes, you are. And so we talked about it before. So, a lot of people have issue with competition. It's no secret that there are rules about, not being able to be sexually suggestive, or the gluteal fold rule and things like that. And so it's, a reality and it's within your rule book, but you just announced an exotic category. And so and that was just like last month, I think. And
Yeah.
what I perceived the reaction to be was very positive, but can you tell us what this new category is and what you've seen the reaction to be?
Yeah, definitely. So the exotic category is supposed to be the celebration of sexy, or celebration of sensual movement. So obviously, if you've ever looked at any B-spun video or stuff like that, you'll know that like that's where I'm from, and we love sexy. Like, we're all about it. We're with shoes, we're with booty shaking, like we're with body rolls, like all of that stuff. So I wanted to make sure that like that had a place in what we're doing with PSO, because I think that the feedback I was getting before we added this category was that PSO didn't like sexy, that you weren't supposed to be sensual, that Amy doesn't like butts. No, I like butts. I love butts. I love my butt. I love your butt. Like, butts are great. So I think that, this is just the next step in that sort of inclusivity and finding a place for everyone. Because I never really said in the beginning with the rules, like, I don't think that we really said, like, you can't do heels or you can't do this. But I think that especially with our name being Pole Sport Organization, people said like, oh, well, it's probably more fitness or it's probably more dance. And so we don't want to do those things. And I want to tell those people, no, like, come here. Like, we want to do it. We want to see it. We want to see what you're going to bring. We want to give you an opportunity also. So, we'll just make your own category. And the other person that works a lot in our organization is Iris Sparrow. And so she's an instructor, and she does like all sorts of like sexy exotic. She's also the woman behind the camera with Alloy Images for our shows. But she also does the sexy. And so I think she and I were both on the same train of, let's do the sexy. Like, this could be really fun, and like, let's see what happens. And also, I don't know if I'm going to say it today, but you should look for our newsletter coming on July 6th, because we might be saying a little something about that gluteal fold rule that everyone might be real interested in, especially if you're competing in exotic.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I know a lot of people they don't embrace that rule because...
Hey, it's okay. You can say it. We take feedback, all feedback.
But yeah, like, you started the organization based on what historically the rules were in other competitions, and I'm assuming you didn't start everything from scratch, so it is just like a natural evolution. It is what it is. So, but it's so cool to hear that you're like receptive to feedback and evolving everything.
Thanks. Well, I think it's also like a testament to like how the sort of like not our community, but how the general world is starting to perceive pole. Because back when we were, first starting PSO, like in 2012, it was like, well, booking venues is really difficult because they think that we're, a bunch of girls who are going to take off, who are going to, dance naked and like, be sort of in that adult entertainment industry. And so what I can tell the venues with our gluteal fold coverage is like, look, everybody has to be covered. Like, these are our rules. And so it made it really easy for the venues to like, sell it to their management teams and say like, okay, so this show is okay for our venue. because of the coverage rules. But now that now that we've been at our venues for a few years, I think they see what we're doing. They see that it's not taking your clothes off, and so they're like, oh, okay, like, we're not so strict anymore. We're not really going to hound you about it anymore. And so that's also like kind of given us the freedom to take this next step of, being a little bit looser with that rule.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm glad that you said that, because I've heard from other competition and even just performing troops that it is sometimes difficult to book a venue for pole because of what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that perception that people are just going to be like letting their boobs fly everywhere and like sliding up and down the pole, getting nasty, and like not recognizing what a pole competition really is and what a pole performance is really like. So it was like a necessary step into just being able to book a venue.
I think so. I think you're right. And I mean, like, for example, like we actually are in a high school, like for one of our shows, like in Chicago, like we're using like a high school theater, it's a beautiful theater and it's wonderful. But again, like that was one of their concerns kind of in the beginning. So, but now, people's minds are just so much more open. Like when I think about, when I started pole dancing, like for the first time, it was so risque and so not okay and just so terrible for everyone. And like now I get a lot of feedback when like if I go out and I'm talking to people and I say I do pole, most of the time now the reaction is like, oh, like I have like a friend who does that, or like my cousin like just started taking classes, that's so great, or like I saw that on TV and how cool is that. So I think that that's a really cool evolution, and it makes me feel really good that, I don't know, the world's minds maybe are starting to open a little bit.
Yeah, it's been taboo for so long, and it really limits what we're able to do out in the general public until, as we are putting ourselves out there. And now also the fact that you have so much video content and media from these competitions, we can now show venues, this is what's going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a really good point.
Yeah, we had Tammy Morris on.
I love Tammy.
Yeah, she actually recommended to have you on. So
that's so nice. She's so wonderful, and she we actually used to do a competition in Canada for a couple of years, and she was like so helpful and so wonderful through the whole thing. And I've taught up at Tantra before, like on tour. So much love to all the Tantra girls, and thanks, Tammy.
Yeah, she was talking about how I don't know if this was the competition you worked with her, but when she first started doing it up in Canada, the only venue they could book was a strip club because no one else.
Oh, wow. Oh, no, she's even more OG than me. Like, she's like the first. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, so she spoke about that reality of like there was like an art performance space that wouldn't even allow her to book there. So,
wow.
Yeah, so she had to start off at a strip club and then get video to then be able to show venues like, it's okay, this is what's going to be happening, and then she was able to book them. So you explaining it that way makes a lot more sense and helps me understand.
Yeah, definitely. So look for the announcement. It'll be in our newsletter on July 6th.
Yes, well, this will be launching after July 6th, so it will already have happened.
There you go.
Okay, so now I have a much better understanding of pole sport organization. I forgot to ask before, is that like is that your career? Mm-hmm. Like running pole sport organization?
Yes.
Wow.
So, and it's only been in like, I would say the last like 6 to 8 months that it's really been, my full-time gig. But because otherwise like I'll supplement it with like teaching and, I'll do some workshops like here and there to kind of like, help my income. So now it's my full-time job. It's very exciting. And I think that, one of the big challenges of working on your own business, like for yourself, is to like, again, that time management thing, because it's so easy to like sit at your house and be like, oh yeah, I have a lot of emails to answer. Oh, but it's sunny out and there's the beach and there's acro and there's classes and there's pole and cube. And then you're like, okay, wait, Like, no, calm down.
Get back to business.
Get back to business. But yeah, I mean, it's been pretty cool and pretty fulfilling. I really also appreciate that now I've traveled a lot. I've been very fortunate to do a lot of touring in the past. And so I've seen a lot of countries. I've met a lot of amazing people, but I always traveled alone. So I never traveled with other people. Like it was always like, you go by yourself, you go to one studio, they drop you off at the airport, you get picked up by another studio. Now with PSO, I travel with like a group of 5 people. And so it's like 5 of my now best friends because we spend so much time together. And I just think that like that little group makes it all worthwhile. So thank you, team. You're wonderful.
Yeah, your own little small business.
Yeah.
Are you planning to expand? Like what's the trajectory of PSO?
Well, we really enjoyed what we did in Switzerland.
Okay.
So I think that maybe adding some more internationals would be really fun. I think that it's always, the girl who is helping us in Switzerland, her name's Marion Kessler with Gravity Arts,
Okay.
and her boyfriend, Sam Fisher, who's amazing. And they're both really wonderful and very organized and just the kind of people that we would want, to be partners with. So, when I go to other countries, like I always have to look like, can I find that kind of partnership, somebody that we enjoy working with that really, upholds the standard of PSO. So I think that, yeah, expanding internationally, if we can find the partners, would be, one of my personal goals. And for the US, I mean, I think we're going to continue to just add more events. We sell out for competitor spots like almost every show, and we've got, 15 to 90 person wait lists at every show. So it's like a whole bunch of people that I have to turn away and say like, sorry guys, like I can't, we can't have you compete or we can't have you perform. And that's really sad. So, if there's really the demand or if people really want to do it, then I'm like, okay, like let's do a new city, like let's do a new show, like works for me. So expansion, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And so for those who have not been to a pole sport organization competition, it has been evolving. I've only gone for the past couple years, but I have noticed that you've done a lot of surveying and you've done a lot of responsiveness, like we talked about with the exotic category. But you also now do like workshops at the competitions, and even the stage design is very nice now. And not that it wasn't very nice, but it's evolved everything. I feel like you are also wrapping your head around like, well, how do I make this like more of an event,
Yeah,
in addition
definitely.
to like a competition where people just sit, watch, leave? So
Yeah, I think that so we've experimented with doing workshops and also free seminars in what we call the playroom, so the PSO playroom. So it's just like a separate area of the event where we'll have like pros or other instructors from the area who want to give a sample of what kind of classes they teach. So it's all non-pole based. So I usually do like a flexibility, like a bendability class. We'll have other people who do like floor work. We had like a wall dance one time. Handstands or acrobatics, like things like that. And then for the workshops, which are paid, we'll have our national champions come around. So like at PPC, we had Brandon, who was doing a handstand workshop. We had Crystal Belcher, who was teaching twerk. So like all of those, are just like added bonuses. Because I mean, it's the same for me. Like the competitions they run, 12 hours the first day and, 8 hours the second day. And like, I don't even want to watch like that. I don't want to sit in one seat and watch, for that long. So you want to like have like other things to do, maybe go shopping, see a vendor, go to a workshop, like take a free class, and then they come back and watch your friends. So it's like a good flow, keeps you moving. It keeps you energized.
yeah, so that's you're creating more of like a weekend type of event as opposed to just a competition, which is really cool. I really admire like all how you've really evolved it and like all the effort that you put in to make it
Well, thank you.
enjoyable for not just the competitors but for people who are going to support competitors. So
Awesome.
and so you mentioned bendability. So let's talk about that. You have something called Bendability Fitness, and this is
Yes.
not pole sport organization. This is
No.
Amy Guion initiative
Okay, well, this was like really like my first company ever was Bendability Fitness. So it was, I guess like I just put the brand on it because I felt like, I don't know, maybe like, it's hard for me to say like I'm promoting myself. Because I feel like that's weird. Like, why would you promote yourself? That's weird. So I was like, no, but I have a method or I have like a style of teaching. So I'll call it bendability. And then I feel better about like, oh, I'm doing a bendability class. It's not like the Amy Guion method. It's like the bendability method. And I guess like I felt more comfortable saying it that way. So bendability is a method of flexibility training, but it's designed for people who are not naturally flexible. And the reason that I did it that way is because I'm not naturally flexible. And if you watch me dance or you watch me perform or see my videos, you'll probably be like, that's crazy because you have like crazy splits now and like you have a nice back bend. And I'll tell you that it was not always like that. So I was saying that like back in Seattle, I did ballet very seriously at like a professional school. And when I was 8, one of the teachers told my mom that I was not flexible, and so I probably shouldn't be in the program anymore. And she never told me until like, I don't know, I want to say like I was like maybe like in my 20s, like low 20s. Yeah, because she was like, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to discourage you.
Give you like a complex of some sort.
Yeah, and I think that that's awesome because I think for myself, like I already saw like, oh no, I'm not as flexible as the other girls. Like everybody would be in these like crazy straddles, and I'd be like, I don't even understand like how they do that. And you know, I think the stereotype is like when you're a kid, you're really bendy. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, that just wasn't me. And I don't know why, and I don't know if it's genetic. I don't know, you know, if it was something I ate, but that wasn't my body. And so I had to work really hard on getting flexible. So it took me, you know, about 10 years to get my splits. So, I guess it was 8 years. So I got my splits when I was 16, and I remember that being amazing. And then, you know, just kept working at it because it was really enjoyable to work at something and to like be like, okay, I'm actually making progress. Like I see the correlation between the hard work and the result. And so that's what flexibility did for me. And I hope that by, you know, the bendability method that I can give other people inspiration and sort of hope that like, okay, we're not going to sit and oversplit like the first minute of class.
It's not like a contortion program.
No, it's not a contortion program.
Okay.
I do not feel like I'm qualified to teach contortion. I'm super not a contortionist. But can I teach you to be more flexible than you already are? Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, am I more flexible now than I've ever been? Yes. Absolutely, which is really cool.
So is it a program that you teach in that you do workshops, or is that something that that's available online for people to watch or download, or what's the...
Yeah, so it's both actually. So I started it like as a seminar or like a workshop series, and so I would teach it both a bendability off the pole and then a bendability on the pole, which I called Fake It Till You Make It. And then now I have DVDs. So I've got a set of 3 DVDs for bendability, and then I also have a set of stretching flashcards. So it's like a little pack that you get in like a box, and it's got like 3 different levels, and so you can like throw them in your bag or put them on like a little key ring and just like pull them out and be like, oh, okay, like my first flashcard is, you know, pike stretch. And so you can do your pike stretch. And then like, oh, okay, my next flashcard is straddle. So then you can do your straddle. So it's just like a fun training tool.
That's super cute. You can just like bring it to the park and see what pops up.
Sure, yeah, you can shuffle them and, you know, draw a card, and there you go. You have to do the stretch.
Like every night before bed, pull a card and do that stretch.
Yeah, totally. Play a little game.
That's really fun. Okay, so bendability is like your program. It's kind of like how like Lux ATL has Stripcraft, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Which, let me tell you, I totally want to take that class. So Lux, you better come back to LA. She was here, and then, but we were all gone because we had a show in Atlanta, which is like where she's from. So we like had like like a city swap.
Oh, yeah, I've taken her workshop. It's really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun. And it was at B-Spun, your home base.
I know, and they were promoting it, and I was like, oh, I'm so bummed I'm not here, but we're in the middle of our season.
Yeah, that must be the thing, though. Like, how often, like, what would you say the percentage of time you spend on the road for your career?
I would say it's almost 2 weeks out of every month.
Oh, wow.
So it's a lot, but it's actually less than what I was doing when I was touring and traveling, like just to teach. So I feel like it's better.
Okay.
And I also feel like now that we've kind of like gotten in the rhythm, it's like not so stressful.
Okay.
Because like you're like, okay, I know what's gonna happen. I have my TSA pre-check. I know if I get to the airport, at this time, like I'll be fine. And you just kind of like you have your rhythm and you know how it goes, so your body's kind of used to it. Before, when it was like just like the touring and the teaching, it was like always a different city, like different country, like different language, like different food, different climate. And so this is like much more manageable. I think I've perfected at this point the like getting to the airport with like the minimum amount of time possible. Because like so we went to Europe like last year, and Alloy Images, which is Iris Sparrow that I mentioned before, and then also her partner Joe Woods. They got to the airport like with a really reasonable, like maybe like an hour before their international flight or hour and a half. And they're like calling me, and I'm like, yeah, I haven't left the house yet.
Oh,
And they're
you
like,
are stressing me out right now.
dude, like you're gonna miss the flight. And I was like, no, like I got this down to a science. And so like yeah, like pretty much like as they call boarding, like I walk up to the gate and they're like, you're stressing me out so bad. And I'm like, yeah, well, I haven't missed one yet. So cross my fingers and knock on wood.
Oh, yeah, if that's what you do. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm there like 2 hours before just in case. I can have a drink at the bar before I get on the plane if I have a lot of time, so I can't deal with it. But good for you. And then I forgot to mention one of the things that happens at PSO too, which when you mentioned Iris and Joe, is it? You said
Yeah.
from Alloy. It's another really cool thing if people are thinking about, competing and looking up to their closest city, is that at the events you have photographers and videographers. So after you compete, you can get a like professional recorded video of your performance and photos, which is really cool.
Well, yeah, and you know what? That's actually something I did forget to mention too about my experience competing. I don't know that I have any professional video from when I competed. Like, I think there's been like some that's been posted by different competitions, but like I've never had the ability to like get footage. And so, and I don't, and no pictures, definitely not pictures.
Yeah.
So, that's actually really special. And Joe and Iris have watched, when I was saying like we do 2,000 competitors every year, they've watched every single performance. Like I have not watched every single performance because I'm moving in and out of the room doing other things. But they have, sat at the top of a ladder or stood, behind a tripod or sat with a camera, and they've watched every competitor that we've ever put through our system. So they have like the greatest eye for everything. The other thing I really like about the way they do their video is that they track the performer. So it's not just like you get like a wide angle of yourself, like from way back where you get like, up close, but your whole body is in the frame. So it's really, it's a great training tool. It's great for like promotion for yourself if you have a business or if you work in pole. It's a great thing to have if you just want to like keep it so that you can show your kids like in 50 years, like how much of a badass you were, So I think that, yeah, having that available is really special.
Yeah, having a pole dancer who understands how to record, because I've seen people who don't necessarily understand pole record and it's a different quality. You're right, it's like this pullback where you're just seeing this wide frame. So, that's another benefit of competing and with PSO is that, you can have this record of it as well, and it's like good quality. Alloy Images, I'll put their website in the show notes so people can check out their work as well.
Okay, cool. And actually the cool part too is that, so Iris is an instructor, but actually Joe does pole and aerial also. So he's like just as, capable
Cool.
at seeing all that stuff. So both of them are great.
Couples that pull together and work together and photo together stay together, I guess.
Yes.
Wow, they really they really do a lot together. That's really cool. I didn't realize that he did as well. So
Yeah, he does.
yeah, awesome. Cool. So let's jump on in then to the second part of the interview, the standard questions I ask everyone.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so first question. Who is your pole crush?
It's Janine Butterfly. She's amazing. So I remember like way back when, again, before there were any competitions, like watching her videos and being like, who is this crazy girl? She's so beautiful. She's so flexible. She's actually originally from Seattle as well.
Oh.
And so that was really cool. And then she got invited to Pole Show LA, like when I was still working at B-Spun, and I got to meet her. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like you're amazing. And so we've actually become friends like over the long period of time that I've known her. And I just went to Vegas like back in December, and she's in the Michael Jackson show now. So like that was really awesome to be able to catch up with her. And yeah, she's completely inspirational.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, for those listening, if you're not in the Pole Parlour Facebook group, if you head over there and just join, I have a video up there actually that I posted a couple weeks ago, and I probably shouldn't be admitted this, but someone was at the show and took like a bootleg video of her pole dancing at the Michael Jackson show.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
It wasn't me, but I'm guilty of reposting it, but just in a private group. But because she's dancing on this like spiral pole, it's not like a straight up and down vertical pole. It's this like kind of spirally pole. I don't know any other way to describe it. And it's so beautiful. I cannot wait to go out there to watch it, to see it in person. I think, honestly, this bootleg video makes you want to buy a ticket and go see it in person. So,
well, the whole show, I mean, she's wonderful, and the whole show is really, really well done. I think it's really a celebration of Michael Jackson's life. And so, you'll see sort of him through the ages. It's also got a lot of really cool integrations between the live performers and like video and technology. So they have like video, they have a lot of really interesting like special effects. There's a hologram of Michael Jackson who dances with all the dancers. And so it's a really, really cool experience. Like, it's actually giving me chills kind of thinking about it.
The holograms kind of creep me out, but
no, it was really cool. It wasn't creepy at all.
Okay, good. Very cool. So yeah, if anyone is in Vegas or traveling to Vegas, make sure you book your ticket and see the pole performance in the Michael Jackson show.
Definitely. I'll be at Pole Expo if you want to hang out. So come to Pole Expo, and then you guys can come to Vegas.
Oh, perfect. And so, how would you like to see the pole community evolve over the next 5 years?
Okay, so over the next 5 years, I would love to see like a standard language for all of our moves. I think that would be really great. We started doing like a move guide for PSO. So that one would be cool. Or we can adopt like a different one. Like, it actually doesn't really matter to me which, what language we use or what names we give things. But I just think that having sort of a cohesive language and like a way to communicate with everyone would really help our community, grow, and also make it easier for us to connect like via social media. I know that everybody's been doing the tags with like the hashtag PD and then like the move. But if you call the move something different, then it's also like a little bit hard still to like talk about it. So I think that the PD something is a great like sort of beginning of that standardized language. So like I feel like let's keep going. Like, let's take it there.
Yeah, because we had Shane Evans on, and she's Australian, and she was saying she calls what I learned was called the martini. They call it like the hello boys, which like that, which is so much fun. So I guess it's between countries and.
Yeah, but I still think that like if we can like get together and say like, no, this is really like how we want to call things and what we want to do. I mean, then, people from here can communicate with people from Australia with no problem, who can communicate, with people from Europe, who can communicate with people from Asia, because like social media is like sort of crosses all those boundaries, right? Like, I know I follow like a bunch of like the sexy Russian girls, and I also follow like some, crazy strength training Europeans, and I also follow, some of the Brazilian girls. Yeah. So like to have like an integrated language, I think for all the countries, like that's a good goal.
Wow. And I feel like you're so organized, and you have come to be known as kind of like an official respected person within the community.
Oh,
maybe that's something you take on.
Maybe, I don't know, in all my free time.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe when you're on the plane or something, that can be like your plane project.
There you go.
Or if anyone's interested, reach out to Amy, and she's got your back. Since you've already started with for PSO the guide that you've put together.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's an interesting answer. No one's ever given that. I like it.
Oh, cool. Well, different, I guess.
Yeah. And so, what can you share with our audience that you have coming up? You just mentioned before that you're going to be at Pool Expo.
Yes, we're going to be at Pool Expo. But before Pool Expo, PSO has our national competition. So we've got that in Seattle, which is August 12th through the 14th. And then we're also going to be running, probably by the time this video comes out, a big Facebook contest. We're going to be giving away airfare, hotel stays, and a bunch of prizes to a special pro finalist, as well as a bunch of like swag and gifts from a lot of the other major pool brands to those who vote in our contest. So if you're interested in getting some free tickets or a bunch of swag, check out our social media at Pool Sport Organization on Facebook.
Very cool. And then what are you going to be doing so Pool Expo is in Vegas, which we touched on before. That's like the second weekend of September. What are you going to be doing there?
I'm doing a bunch of stuff. So I'm teaching a bendability free workshop. So it'll be like 30 minutes on the main stage if you want to do that. I always joke with Fanya that she puts me at like 9:30 in the morning, like on Sundays. And I'm like, come on, Fanya, please next year give me a spot in the afternoon so I can sleep. And she's like, no, but we know that you will wake up and you will be there and you won't miss it. And I'm like, yeah, but let me sleep in. So I'm doing bendability. I'm going to do also a little seminar about PSO, about our judging system. So if you have questions about the way that we evaluate performances, then I'll talk about that. We have a booth for PSO, so you can come visit our table, get more info about our competitions, buy some merch, hang out with me. And then I'm also doing Pool Show LA. Which is in Vegas. They're going to do a Vegas version of it on Saturday night.
You're performing in it?
I'm performing in it, yeah.
Wow.
So it's a full weekend
You're
for sure.
You're doing everything. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be there, so I'm going to be seeing all of these things. So
okay, cool. Yeah, please come.
Yeah. Now I got to look into those Michael Jackson tickets. But I'm glad you brought up the judging thing, because I was like, do I broach this subject? I'm not going to broach this subject.
Oh, come on, broach the subject.
Well, it's just like such a huge conversation, to even dive into. But it is something that is so difficult that it is, for you to have a workshop on it makes complete sense, because people don't understand the judging. People don't understand where the rules come from.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
So we've had Kelly Maglia on.
Yeah.
Who I know that you model for.
I do, and she lives like 3 blocks away from me. So we're like neighbors, and she's wonderful. And yeah, I model for her for Kelly Maglia Couture. And then she also has another line called Triple Threat. Yeah. I don't know if she talked about that. But the Triple Threat is like more of like a high school like costume line for like dance teams and stuff. So I totally model with like girls that are like more like 20 years younger than me.
That's cool. You look young.
It's a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah. And she was talking about how judging, when she judges, it's tough because, you see things one way, but the judge next to you sees things a completely different way. So
yeah, definitely.
I would imagine that may be your toughest challenge with PSO, is dealing with the judging and the feedback from judging, and maybe people not agreeing with the judges. So
yeah, definitely. Well, so a couple of things. I think number one on the horizon for PSO, along with our expansion, is like judge certification. That's like something we've been working on for a while, and it's like because of exactly what you're saying. Some people see it this way, some people see it that way, and I just need to say like, well, you got to see it our way.
Yeah.
Like you got to see it the PSO way. So we'll have a cert program soon, I think. I mean, we already do our judging online. So the goal is to really get that certification online as like its own standalone entity. So it's not like I need to host a cert all the time. It's like just go take the course online, take the test, and then you're good.
Oh, that's so
I think
smart.
that's eventually that goal. And then for the as far as there being like ranges, right, between like the different judges, I think one thing that people don't realize is that you have a panel of 5, but we always drop the highest and the lowest. So like, let's say that like I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, a B-spun girl's performing. I'm going to give her 100 points. Okay? And someone else is like, I don't like the color of her shorts. Like green sucks. I'm going to give her 0 points. And then the other 3 are like, oh, okay, well, I'm a reasonable person and like I'm going to evaluate them, to standard and all of that. Like my score, for being like too high is going to get thrown out, and the other one for being too low is also going to get thrown out. So you're only getting those like middle 3 people. And so it really eliminates, I think, a lot of the opportunity for judge bias, because there's no incentive to be biased because your score is just going to get tossed.
Oh, that's smart.
I think that's a really important part, of our system. So hopefully you can spread the word.
Yeah, so know that. And you can't like infiltrate thinking that you're I'm gonna be the judge for this person. And I think most people hold themselves to moral standards. Like I know of judges that had to remove themselves from certain competitions that they were supposed to be judging because they knew the person, they had the person as a student, they didn't feel comfortable. So I think most people have like a moral high ground where they know that they can't do that. So
yeah, and I do think that like, all of our judges also judge all the different categories. So it's like we've got like different elements. So there's like artistic points that you have to judge on, then there's like technical points. And so all of our judges judge all of the categories rather than dividing it like, you're only responsible for technical, you're only responsible for artistic, because then you can't really do that dropping of the highs and the lows anymore. You have to like keep all the scores. So this more integrated approach, I think, is less biased and is better.
Yeah, good system. And I think having the online course is going to have people understand the rules more and to know what their points should be based on. So again, another way that you're evolving that is just making PSO stronger and more beneficial for the competitors.
Oh, thank you. We try. So yeah, and hopefully we are accessible. So, if you guys have comments or concerns, like I try to answer, I personally answer pretty much every email, and, I'm always on Facebook Messenger, so you can hit me up for like, I forgot what the deadline for this is, and I'll write you back, the same day. And so, if you have questions, like I can't fix it until I know it's broken or it's not working or something's wrong. So even if you're like, oh, I don't want to be mean, like, well, don't be mean about it, but tell me, right? Like, you don't have to be a jerk about it, but you can say like, hey, this thing isn't working. Like, can you help me? And most of the time we'll be like, yeah, that sucks. Like, let's fix it.
That's awesome. And your website is polesportorganization.com. Okay.
Yep. Or polesportorg.com.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And so obviously, don't forget, if you're not on the mailing list, go over there to get on the mailing list so you can get all of these fun updates that Amy's been teasing throughout the show.
Thanks.
And so before we sign off, can you leave us with an empowering message or quote or anecdote?
Sure. So I guess like I'm a big fan of hard work. So I would say that good things don't come easy, but with hard work, anything's possible.
I like it. And you're proof of that because I can tell you work your ass off and you seem to be very successful. So
thank you.
Yes, I admire all of the hard work you do, and it's been such a pleasure talking with you. I feel like I've learned so much on this episode because I've never competed. It's not my thing, but I know so many people who do. I know, but I definitely respect people who do love to compete, and I go to competitions all the time to support my homegirls and homeboys. So, now I understand when I'm there what's going on, and so I know a lot of people listening maybe were a bit intimidated by it, and now hearing from you, it doesn't sound that intimidating at all.
Oh, good. Well, we try to be supportive and make you guys have the best experience possible. So let's do it.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you so much, Amy, for being on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Pole Parlour podcast. Want more? Visit poleparlour.com for show notes and to link to the Facebook group where you can connect with other poloholics and continue the conversation. Listen to past episodes and subscribe to new episodes on the website, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. Lots of love, babes. Thanks for listening.